There we go.
There we go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Beth's Eleutheria after a very long hiatus. But I've launched a new podcast series that hopefully I'll stick with this time called Creative Minds. And my first guest is Robert Patton, and he's the CEO of Sheath Underwear. And he was just starting a really interesting story about his start to adult life. So I'm going to ask him to restart from the beginning and take it from there.
Yeah, so I mean, it was it's like a segue into where I break my leg by hitting myself with my own car. But so we go backtrack to how I even got to that point, and I was just saying how I was 18, I'd just gone into college, and well, I was 19 when I got hit, but by my own car. But I was 18 and went to college, and I was just kind of I had been watching, I grew up watching these gangster movies, Goodfellas, Scarface, and like that type of movie, and that was who I thought I wanted to be when I grew up. I was saying my parents didn't do a very good job because my idea of reality came from these movies, and so I get to college, and I had been smoking weed at the time, but now I'm on my own. I'm getting influenced by other people, and the rave scene had just kind of started coming about, and I was curious, and when I tried, like ecstasy or whatever, I was like, okay, well, let's do this for a while and start selling it and become a gangster like I had seen in the movies. And unfortunately, it didn't last long. I actually did kind of like I made these connections, and I thought I was this big wig, and I was like getting these people who would get these huge amounts, and they would give me my little cut, and I thought I was gonna work my way up in that system and take over and be this kingpin. But fortunately, in a weird way, I kind of got like basically hooked on coke, and it
Wow.
it down like it was a quick downhill path to I got arrested and basically withdrew from college within 6 months before it got like too out of hand, because I could have gotten like more and more larger quantities, and had I got caught with that, I would have done like real time. I actually had to go to jail for what happened, but because I had like a little bit of powder and they caught me with it. But it was like a
Mm.
blessing. I look at it as a blessing because I didn't get more wrapped up into it. And so I withdrew from college. I went back home and living with my mom, and I had to get a job, and it was delivering pizzas. And so it was at my father's. This is horrible. Anyways, so I got this job it's called my father's place. It was a pizza place. He wasn't my father, but he, um, he was kind enough to give me a job because I had like these pending drug charges, and he was a really, really nice guy. Probably shouldn't have been so nice to me because as I'm delivering pizzas, I'm like smoking weed on my deliveries, and that was good. That went on for like a month or so, and finally, this was the last pizza that I ever delivered. But I was going down a dirt road because I lived in Georgia, and and then the driveway was like a dirt driveway, and it's real bumpy. So I'm driving down, taking my last few hits of my blunt that I had rolled, totally unprofessional, and I get down to their little driveway. I mean, like by the house, and put the blunt out, and then I put the car in park and get the pizza. I'm walking to the house to deliver the pizza, and I hear like the engine rev in my car, and no one's in there. So I'm like, that's weird. Turn around, and it's like rocking, and it starts rolling towards their house. I don't know what's going on, but I got the pizza in my hand. So I throw the pizza as close as I could get it to the front door before I run back and try to stop the car. And my intention was to run back around, get into the driver's seat, put the brake before I hit their house. Because how embarrassing would it be for your car to hit their house. So I was really trying
Yeah.
to stop it. But by the time I got to the front of the car, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to get around and in the car. So I tried to stop it like Superman, and that didn't work. It just basically pushed me into the house and broke my leg in the process. So now I'm pinned in between my car and their house, and I'm just kind of like time slowed down, and the car then it like revs back. I feel like there's a ghost in there, or somebody got in my car, like a little kid. I'm not sure what happened. It revs back, and so then that's when I realized my leg was broke, because I didn't feel it when it hit.
Oh
But
no
because
way.
my femur had snapped, so when the
Your
car,
femur.
yeah, that's the big
Oh
one.
my word.
And it so then my like the bottom half of my leg is like collapsing toward, and so I had to fall with it, because it was a really weird feeling when there's no bone and the only thing holding is the muscle. And so I
Yeah.
fall down, and I'm laying there, my car kind of like leaning up against their house. I got weed in my pocket, got a blunt in the ashtray, and just a horrible scene. Although I would like to have seen it like on camera, because it was probably pretty funny. But in my mind, I'm like, I got to get rid of this weed. What is happening? I got to get rid of this weed. And so I pull it out of my pocket, and I try to like throw it as far away from me as I could, so that when surely the police and the ambulance were coming at some point, they wouldn't find it. But of course, the little baggie unrolled, and it landed like 5 feet from me. So it was like, and then now I can't grab it. And it was just a horrible experience, but it was it's like a kind of a blessing in disguise. Not necessarily, well, all of it, because I ended up, I ended up, having to go to jail with that broken leg. And
Yes.
I did my time. I did 106 days in a Georgia detention facility, which was just like a bunch of bunk beds and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
but when I got out, my dad, who lived in California, was like, let's get you out of there. You're in a bad scene. And a lot of my friends were like taking pills, smoking weed, doing coke, and smoking crack and shit. It was bad. I don't know how it is there, but it was in Georgia, when there's like not much to do. It was just like a bad scene.
Well, like we have Roadrunner that's joined us this evening, and he's been recounting a few of his experiences using various substances.
Yeah.
I think you can pretty much surmise that. Yeah, he he has a bit of experience with it. I think it's also very much like who you fall in with and that. And yeah, I think we have our own version of meth here as well, crystal meth. I think it's
Yeah.
called tick. Somebody can correct me in the comments. Is tick crystal meth? That's what I think. Anyway, and yeah, so there are those problems here as well.
I mean, here's a silver lining to all of this. Kind of like Steve Jobs did acid and created Apple, and that was kind of more my jam. And afterwards, I never got back into the powders. Thank God for my dad to like get me out of that situations, because those can be really addictive and like grab a hold of you. And I had like a little problem. Like I said, it was only like a 6-month window, but
Hmm.
where I was like just off my head, so to speak. And but getting to California and like starting over was like just a blessing. And I still smoked weed, but just got off of like the hard stuff.
Hmm.
And that's when I started like reading these books that I feel got me to where I am, like Think and Grow Rich, The Power of Positive
Hmm.
Thinking. It's like, the sky is not the limit, you are. That was the very first success book that I read. The sky is not the limit, you are. And it started just talking about changing the way you think about what's possible, all.
Hmm.
And I guess what I thought was possible from watching the movies that I watched growing up as a kid was shattered when I got arrested, and my life was just halted. But so in reading these books, it kind of opened me back up to these potential realities that exist that aren't like dealing with gangster shit. It's more like you can be a gangster of business type thing,
Mm.
you know, and really set yourself apart from different people. And the way to do that is there's like there's principles of success, and they're
Yes.
very, it's like there's a blueprint. You don't have to reinvent that part. That having an idea like Sheath Underwear, sheathunderwear.com, that's, I don't know if everyone has ideas, but I kind of do know that, everyone knows someone who has all these ideas but never really takes action in that direction, and they just keep having
Mm.
more and more ideas. So ideas are easy. It's the following the blueprint to get that idea into tangible in your hands, and then into the marketplace. And believing like that someone like me could even do that came from reading these books, because if anybody can do it, you could do it, and if I can do it, you can do it for sure. I mean, I'm telling you, I was like hooked on coke and whatever. So, and I got out of that. I reframed my mindset to what's possible, and started like, and it took like 10 years after that to even start anything. But you have to start within the mind, obviously,
Yeah.
and just kind of like let it percolate in there, and and over time you'll start seeing the reality of what these books are saying from other people's experiences. When you hear about different like Tony Robbins is one of my favorite motivational speakers, and it's a lot of people think it's all like woo woo kind of silly motivation, and then like you go to a motivational like class or whatever, and then you're motivated for like 2 weeks, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do it, but then you kind of slip back into your old ways. You have to keep doing it and keep reading
Mm.
and don't let it slip away, because it, like anything, if you don't keep doing it, you're gonna like lose that train of thought, I guess. And
Yeah.
so I constantly was reading self-help books, and people that don't like self-help books, I don't know what to tell you. I love them. I'll be reading stories of people's past accomplishments where they overcame the odds, shouldn't have made it, but they did. And I'll cry, and because I'm like, it's just so inspiring to me. And then I see, well, that guy did it, and there was no way he could have done it. He was blind, or he was deaf, or he was black in the early 1900s, and there's no way he could become a millionaire, but he did.
Mm.
So that just like started making me believe maybe something's possible. So that
Yeah.
one day when I did have that idea, I was able to like believe that I could actually do something with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you joined the military.
Yes. So after a couple of years of kind of doing some corporate jobs and stuff and reading these books, but I kind of hit a dead end with college, and my job that I had, I was doing payroll,
Mm.
and we're in the middle of the war, and I had kind of amassed like $13,000 in debt, credit card debt.
Oh,
And that, to me at the time, that was like, I would never get out of $13,000 in debt.
yeah. Yeah,
But
that's
if
a
I,
lot of money.
it was, I was 25, and um, so here we are. This recruiter hits me up and telling me they're gonna pay off like all my. I'm gonna get a signing bonus. They're gonna pay off all my college debt and all the other benefits like free
Wow.
healthcare and stuff. And
Sure.
so even though it was 2006 in the middle of the Iraq War and like the Fallujah Triangle and all the bloody horror stories, I joined right in the middle of it. And I mean, I would say it was probably the best thing that I could have done, because that is what like turned me into a man and gave me confidence that I could compete amongst my peers. Because when you're in the army and you're all going through this stuff together, they put you through tests, whether it's physical, mental, with learning all the regulations. You had to learn how to shoot. And I was like in the top tiers on all of those subjects or whatever. And so, and I actually won the physical fitness part, which to me was really like, I came in first out of like 250 people in passing all the push-ups, sit-ups, and running phase of the physical fitness test. And when that happened, it was like, I measure up. Like I can compete. I can, just, I have it within me to be something more than I thought. And it really just brought the man out of me. Instead of being like a boy, I became a man. So that was that was huge.
I think there's a lot to be said about the growing up that happens, particularly for young men that might not have had like the best guidance growing up.
Yes.
Joining the military really can instill all of those things, discipline, and just learning how to put your head down and actually get something done.
Confidence, teamwork, leadership, and pushing yourself beyond, like just you have to rappel down these walls. And I actually went to the air assault school where we would rappel out of helicopters.
Oh, wow.
And that was in the middle of my Army training. It was after my first deployment, but before my second one. And the second one was where I came up with the idea for Sheath. And like my first deployment, we were so busy with casualties that there was no time to think about anything. I wasn't inventing anything. And I wasn't a sergeant yet. I was a private first class. I was just a grunt, and I was doing what I was told. And then we came back to, I was in Virginia, and I immediately went to leadership training. And then I went to the air assault school, and then I went back to Iraq. But by that time, I was a sergeant because I did these schools and I passed the board, and I'm a sergeant. So now when I'm there, I'm the non-commissioned officer in charge of my 6-man team, where we were on a compound and we were pretty much left to our own devices. It's kind of like a fireman. I wasn't a fireman, but you know how you only have to go put out fires when there's a fire. So otherwise you're just waiting around. And on this deployment, unlike the first, there was way less casualties. Like instead of 300 plus in a 6-month period, there was like 10. And my job was helping with the casualties. So because there were none, I'm over here, I'm making vision boards. I was actually going to college while I was in Iraq. I was watching the movie The Secret, and people can say it's all bullshit if you want. I don't know if it is or not, but it worked for me. Like the law of attraction, what you put out kind of comes back to you. And then it was at that time where I had the idea, and and I'm in this kind of magical mindset mode where it's like, the universe likes speed. I remember that quote from the movie. When you have the idea, act and don't hesitate. And so I had the idea for the underwear, and I actually had the underwear made while I was in Iraq. And I remember I was like holding up I'm in Iraq, I'm holding up these little briefs with the pouch, and the pouch was too small. And when I put them on, it was like, I got the idea, but I knew that there needed to be some adjustments. And, but that was like the beginning. And so that started the ball rolling. And then you just kind of keep like Sisyphus pushing that ball up the mountain, even though you never get to the top. Because here we are 12 years later, 13, 14, 15 years later, and I'm in the middle of it. And this is probably the time where I'm going to look back and be like, that was the best time.
Yeah.
But we're still grinding every day just to like make ends meet. and pay the payroll and keep
Keep the
growing.
lights on.
Yeah, keep the dream alive, because there's other, we have competition that's trying to take over the market, and
I'm sure.
yeah, so we're trying to stay in there, and we're in there. We're in the game. We're on the court, so to speak.
I'm not sure how many of my viewers actually know what sheath underwear is. So do you want to describe it?
Yes, it
What
is.
is special about it?
So, I mean, it looks like regular underwear. It's sheath underwear, boxer briefs usually, but we have all the different styles now. But so it's underwear, but on the inside is a pouch, and I call it like an inverted kangaroo pouch for your Joey, because put the boys in there. It isolates them from your inner thigh region, because guys know, and I imagine in South Africa it can get a little hot. I'm not sure, but
Yeah,
any
it gets
guy,
pretty warm.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. In the South here in America, whatever, I mean, it gets hot everywhere. Global warming, and when you get hot downstairs, things can get like sticky and uncomfortable, and it may make the junk in the trunk look big. It does make the junk. It does pronounce that area and give you a more enhanced profile.
So you don't have to use a sock anymore.
No, yeah, and like Red Hot Chili Peppers, or there's some other artists. You put a sock on in your
I
junk,
think it
and
was Mick Jagger.
see, he probably was the first, and they copied him. Exactly. That isolates that the skin. It keeps the skin on skin contact from happening, and it's just a very thin layer of fabric that just isolates the boys from the thighs, and it creates like a cooling effect. It allows air to maybe flow a little bit more, as opposed to not boxers, but briefs. The briefs, you put them on and it just like smashes your junk right up into your groin. There's no breathing. It's just a hot mess sometimes. And this will allow you to kind of hang more naturally, but not too free like boxer shorts, where it's like everything's everywhere. It's all over the place. It's too much freedom. A little bit of confinement.
Yeah, you don't want stuff flapping around in the wind,
No, and it can.
I imagine. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, exactly. You imagine correctly. We just posted on our Instagram page this comedian who is talking about how he's playing basketball, and he's just now reached the age where boys are hanging a little lower or whatever, and he made a cut to the left, and then his like ball smacked against his leg, and it made like a smacking sound to the point where someone thought he got fouled. And he's telling the story, but essentially that's what we're preventing in a nutshell. That's a funny phrase, in a nutshell.
Yeah. Pun intended.
Yeah,
We'll just go with it.
exactly.
Roadrunner, let's not discuss things that we discuss in that group. Okay, like we're not going to go there. not on this stream.
I don't think it matters whether you're circumcised or not.
I don't think that has any bearing on it. He's just bringing up stuff.
She's trying to be funny, but I like it. And it's more, and it was more of like a balls thing as opposed to the shaft part, but it's all related. And now we have like the dual pouch, so it separates.
Yeah, you do have that. Yeah.
It separates everything, but initially it was mainly just keeping everything off your inner legs, because like you might be on a plane, and coach, and you're like, and I don't want to get too graphic, but essentially like when everything's just like sitting on your legs or whatever, then the heat, skin on skin creates more heat and sweat and sticking, and then it's just a whole mess. We just prevent that. Very comfortable fabric. We have bamboo and mesh and modal and regular polyesters. They're all good. But yeah, I mean, we have like 30,000 5-star reviews I just heard today, which is
wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
That's incredible. Yeah. And I mean, you sponsor a lot of podcasts and comedians.
Yes.
I have linked both your YouTube channels, so the Sheath YouTube channel and your Robert Patton Global, that's your podcast channel. I've linked that below.
Thank you.
And I really want people to, after this live stream, go and watch your podcast with JP Sears
That was so good.
You put up this week, because that was really good. And I know that most of my audience are fans of JP Sears as well. And then go on the Sheath channel and look at the video that JP did.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
He killed it. That was such a big catch for us, because he's such a big influencer, on YouTube, and most people know who he is that are, that watch kind of our genre of entertainment and stuff. And for me to get him, it was like, I was so excited, and that was a big deal. So, and it was so fascinating to talk to him and hear about how his journey kind of was very in line with my journey, as far as our age, when we started reading these books, when we started changing our mindset to think of what's possible. And then 10 years later, our paths intersect, and we're both in, at the pinnacle of our professions or whatever, at least up to this point, and we're still growing. And the world is it's so crazy, like life and the potential realities. It's like, I could be a janitor. When I was in jail, like at 20, or in that detention center I was talking about, I was like, okay, when I get out, I'm going to be a janitor, because that's the best thing I'm going to be able to do, and I'm going to be happy with it. And and you can follow that train of thought, or you can reimagine what your whole future and what's possible. And again, the idea will come. Ideas are like all day, every day for so many people. It's a matter of collapsing on that idea and focusing and bringing it into reality, and then sticking with it for a decade. One of the main principles of success is you got to be willing to do this job for no pay for 20 years. And if you're not willing to do that, you don't really have what it takes to deal with the hardships and stuff. And granted, it may not take 20 years, but like, that's just the mindset. I'm going to do, like, comedians, a lot of them don't make it for like 10 years, and they're doing open mics and, like, bombing on stage, and keep trying and get and hone that craft until you're at least mid-level, and you're kind of like, okay, I'm in the game, I'm a player, I'm not, the dream is like becoming a reality. But you can, and you're going to run up against obstacles. Obviously, people are going to tell you shouldn't, can't, and it's not possible. And it's usually your best friends and family members who they're like, I don't know if they don't believe, or they don't want you to succeed, or they want, like, you need to be realistic type statements. Get a real job. My grandmother and my brother were two on my family who were really adamant that this was not going to work. And I remember people asking me, though, are you sure? And I was like, I am positive that this is going to work, because I loved it. I loved my, my product. And that's another thing, if you love cars, and you're just a car head and a whatever, you could get into that business. And even though there's dozens of other car salesmen or whatever type of industry, you can get in and like set yourself apart by going the extra mile and doing more than is asked, and just listening to your customer and helping them. And maybe they won't be your customer, maybe you need to send them to the other guy down the street who's your competitor, and you do it. But they're going to remember that your honesty, you're like, I can't help you, but this guy can help you. And then down the line, they might recommend someone to you because you were honest with them. And it's a whole process of like this. I swear, it's just like a blueprint. It's all out there. And there's this guy named Andy Frisella. He had a podcast called the MF CEO, the motherfucking CEO. He's like a badass. I don't know if you've heard of him. He owns First Form, which it's a supplement company. They sell
Okay.
like protein powders and all these types of things for guys that work out. And he was like, I'll tell you everything that I did to become, and he's like a billionaire. I'll tell you everything because you know what? I'm not scared because most of you aren't going to do it. I'm telling you how to do it and you're still not going to do it. But people like me and who need that reminder sometimes, I listen to it and I get like fueled up and I'm pumped up and I am doing it and it's all jiving with me and how I got here. And I'm like, just gives me more confidence that I'm on the right path. I'm doing the steps, and we can all do better. I can always do better. I need to work harder. I need to not, I play chess, and I'll be like, my wife is like, well, if you were doing your emails instead of playing chess, you might not be all stressed out right now. But, so, and I could, it all gets overwhelming sometimes. But you got to just stay the course and stick to the plan and believe. I have this tattoo. It's faith, and it's not like, I mean, I like Jesus, but it's not like that kind of a faith. It's just like a faith in what you're doing and in the course and believing that it's possible. And don't lie to yourself though. I mean, if you're fucking saying I'm going to grow to be 10 feet tall, you're not going to do that. But if you think you can introduce a product to the market and you really believe it, then other people are going to be out there very similar to you. I find that there's so many people just like me, like think like I do, kind of had similar experiences, and they're all out there. And especially through the internet, we kind of find each other.
Yeah.
Through similar interests and stuff.
Yeah, and I think like also what it comes down to is don't take the naysayers too hard. Just don't take them too seriously. Just because they don't think your idea is a good idea. Just if you honestly believe that you have a good idea, then just keep at it and just keep marketing it, and eventually you'll get there. And I did also just want to point out that you didn't forget the woman. You do also have women's underwear, just so that people know.
That's true. And we were initially, it was like men's pouch underwear company, and I was going to stay solely with men because sometimes you start something and then you broaden your product base too much where it actually is better to just stay in your little niche. But however, after, you got to listen to your customers, and if women are buying their men underwear and they're like, hey, where's mine? And it was 2017 when we introduced the women's line, and so that was like 4 years later from the launch in 2013. Which you guys, if you're interested, go check. Like if you Google Sheath Kickstarter, kind of fascinating because we started through Kickstarter, which is a crowdfunding website, and I was watching the second Kickstarter video because the first one is so cringy. And we were successful both times, but we had to do two because we ran into some obstacles, so we ended up having to do another one. But I was watching the second one, and I'm kind of an emotional dude, and I was just like crying again because of how far we've come. We went from like asking people for money to making millions of dollars, and in a relatively short time frame. It's been not quite 10 years from 2013, and once we were successful with that Kickstarter, every year we would double in size. And to this day, actually, this year has been a little tricky. How's, with COVID and the supply chain issues and inflation, and how's it there?
Yeah, our main issue is we literally can't keep the lights on in this
Ah,
country.
that's why.
I I explained to you our load shedding, which I
Yeah.
actually call load shitting now because yeah,
Uh,
about 15 years ago, it was actually closer to 16 because I remember I was pregnant with my daughter. They started just like switching our power off, and it would be like, oh no, the grid's just like under pressure, so we just have to switch off different areas at different times of the day just for a couple of hours, just to lighten the load on the grid. And then it was about a year later they came up with this politically correct term, load shedding,
oh my
and
God.
it's just rolling blackouts. Like
Yeah. We've
that's
had them
all it is.
here. We've had them, I mean, especially in California.
And the only thing I can say without a doubt, the reason for it is corruption.
Oh, yeah, exactly. These damn politicians. They're always in it for themselves. I mean, I have friends here who think to this day that the government has their best interest in like my friend. He's like, no, they're looking out for me, dude. Like they care about it. They literally care about us. I'm like, dude, they wouldn't. They sent me to war
Yeah.
twice
They
for
paid off all your debt to bribe you to go to war for them.
oil and whatever it was that in power in like a strategic location for military power, but mostly oil. Those
Mm.
people got so rich with all the government contracts. The little $13,000 they gave me is a drop in the bucket in the ocean to what those people made. And it's all like it's like a money. It was just like a I don't know. It was a money grab
Mm.
and everything. It's just like this most latest pandemic they call it. Some people, it's like, why are you making money off of people getting either going to war or getting these sick or
Mm.
it's like you should not be profiting off war and medicine,
No,
but I
but they
that's
are.
just my opinion.
Mm. So yeah, the economy here is not great, and it hasn't grown since before COVID.
Oh
So
wow, yeah, but
yeah.
since then for us, like just me personally, I have all these cryptos. My crypto account was at a peak when Elon Musk went on Saturday Night Live. Like I
Mm.
remember I was in Florida. We were at Airbnb. We were going to do a photo shoot with this rapper Riff Raff. He's pretty cool, Riff Raff. He's kind of if you look him up, he's got some pretty good stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
I just remember like I had like over $100,000 worth of cryptos, and now it's down to below 50, and it's just like I just lost like a lot of money, and
Mm.
it's all public perception. And you know I won't try when you talk about Trump, it's kind of tricky, but what I liked was the optimism of his mentality was always very we're gonna be great, we're gonna business is gonna soar, everything's wonderful, instead of like this very dreary sleepy kind of like what's happening. Biden, I'm like I don't
Who denies that you're in a recession?
yeah, they'll the gaslighting is absurd. It's like the
I know.
emperor wears no clothes. He's like declining quickly and has been since he was elected. And then they're like, no, he's fine. It's fine. You're an ass. Like I'm an asshole for even saying anything, like questioning his mental status or whatever. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this. This was crazy. My wife showed me last night, but he was at a press conference asking when this lady was going to come, and she's been dead for like 20 years.
I know.
Yeah, he's like, "Where's Joanne?" And they're like, then they ask his press secretary. Sorry to get political, whatever, it doesn't matter, but
No, it's fine.
uh, she was like, "That's normal." He was going to go visit her family, and he was on top of mind, but he was asking for her specifically in the press conference, and the way they just spin everything and play it
Yeah.
off, I'm like, we're not idiots. And the fact that you talk to us and treat us like we're just like sheep and we're just going to believe everything you say, like, and don't question us, because if you do question us, we're going to put you either out of business or take you offline or whatever. And that's why I created the Robert Patton Global channel, because I didn't necessarily want any of my personal opinions to affect the business.
Yeah.
But I'm not like that. I'm not like a radical per se. I'm just like, I question what you say if it sounds like bullshit. Sorry. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you've probably, especially because of your military experience, you realize that you need to question
Yeah.
a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Because you realize how the wool was pulled over your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because I wasn't
mean,
questioning it.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Exactly. And I was fooled.
Right.
I bought that hook, line, and sinker. I was like, we're gonna go liberate Iraq and we're gonna be the saviors. And you get over there and their people and their family members are dying, and I'm having to deal with like mothers whose son or husband was killed in some kind of airstrike, and then they're like screaming, crying, because you tell them, because they don't know, but then when you tell them, yeah, we have him back here or whatever, and then they realize what's happening, and you're just like, why are we here?
Mm.
And the answers to that question were never like sufficient to me, and then with Fauci and even I don't, it's like the media telling you that this vaccine is going to stop it. Like you're telling me so confidently, and then it turns out that you were either wrong or lying, probably lying, and then you don't even apologize, and you just like it never happened, and then
yeah, you just pretend that
there's no consequences for their misinformation, and it's absurd. Yet we still live in what some people would say in the best country in the world, where there's so much opportunity to become like immigrants come here for a reason,
Yeah.
because if you work hard, you can like kind of make it here. And I used to be like this kind of closed bordery type of a dude, but the way America's going right now, where a lot of the people just want, like the citizens just want free everything. Now I'm like, let the Mexicans come in, because they're hardworking, honest, usually, just usually like God-fearing type of people, and they get a bad name, which is unfair, because
they're not
some
all
of the,
like that.
no, they're not, like they're they're mostly good, like Trump said. Let me take this hat off. It's bothering me. Plus, my family actually is from like South Texas, Mexico, and I'm technically like a Native American, I guess they would say, but Mexico and America are very close together, and I just say Mexican. But I know.
Yeah, it's just easier.
I know the people, and yeah, but you have bad people in every race. I mean, obviously. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we have similar issues here with we have very leaky borders, and people actually risk their lives coming through the Kruger National Park, where there are lions and rhinos and elephants and cheetahs and leopards, all the like really scary big animals, and they'll walk through that just to come here because there's more opportunities than in their home countries.
Right.
And they can also be harder working than a lot of people that live here.
Exactly. But they get stigmatized, like they're taking our jobs, and
Yep.
and there's some truth to that. So it's not simple, it's complicated, but who's going to work harder? That's who I want working for me, and who's, honest, hardworking.
Yeah.
Where we're here, like I'm in Woodland Park, Colorado. I've been trying to hire someone for months to just help with this restocking and doing orders and stuff, and we haven't been able to find anyone. And although there's this dude, he's like a home. No, he's not a homeless guy, but he doesn't have a car or anything, and he's actually working right now. He's restocking some of our stuff because that's what we have to work with, and he's a nice guy. It's just like that's the only option we have right now is this basically homeless dude.
But I mean, you have minimum wage laws that are much like it's a living minimum wage.
Yeah.
Like our minimum wage law here is it's enough for you to live in a location camp, like in a tin shack, and
right.
cook on a paraffin stove, and you know what I mean. It's not like that's one of the reasons why I don't work, because it would actually cost me more to put my kids in school and then aftercare because I'd have to work a full day. It would cost me more to do that with 3 kids than it does to stay at home. So
yeah. I mean, and we pay. We're offering $20 an hour, which is a decent. Like,
geez, I'll come work for you.
I know, right? Like, it's like, where is everyone? We're trying to get people to work, but we do live in a relatively small town, and it's just there's not a lot of people looking for work here. I think a lot of them are retired or something. But my wife and I are handling it, and we do have this guy, and he's nice enough. He's out. I see him out there doing stuff right now.
He's doing his thing.
Yeah, and we'll take what we can get at the moment. And the rest of my team, they've been with us since like the beginning, but they're all the behind the computers and Facebook and making videos and stuff, like actual warehouse work. We had been outsourcing also. I mean, we started in the garage and in our living room, and we did that for a few years, and then we grew to a point where we could outsource it. But those 3PLs, third-party logistics companies, I swear someone should do a story on how many businesses they've put out of business, because once you ship them your goods, and they have like 100 other companies that they're shipping orders out for, but now they have your stuff, and then they start charging you these fees that were not talked about before. They have slow shipping times. You can't get a hold of anyone. And then, like, I remember before we brought it all back in house, like we had orders that were 30 days old, and we're like, what are you doing? You're going to put us out of business. And they were charging me like 20 grand a month, where now, we do it in-house, and we have 2 warehouses, but it's like family operated. So we're doing a better job. We ship them out same day. We put in like little stickers and matches or little goodies. And if you text us and say, oh, I put the wrong size, not text, email or whatever, we can go grab it, fix it before it goes out the door. So we just have way better control at like half the price. And so I swear those companies, they're dangerous. So if you're thinking about outsourcing your shipping to a big 3PL, just beware.
Yeah. I worked, well, I didn't work for them. I was what do they call them? Ambassadors. Many years ago, there was a company that came to South Africa. They tried to do like a multi-level marketing sort of structure, but with selling scrapbooking items. And it was at the height of the scrapbooking craze. So it was paper and tools and all sorts. And what they chose to do is use one of those warehouse operations and I think what actually ended up doing them in is they didn't have a high enough markup, first of all, to sustain their multi-level marketing pyramid that they envisioned. And then the costs in the warehouse. I mean, just to be charged just to pick per item off the shelf and put it in a box, and for
Yeah.
either it was in Johannesburg, so I would go and fetch it my own, rather than pay for shipping, or then you would have to pay the courier fee to get it to you. And yeah, it didn't last very long. I think it was like a year.
Yeah, they put these fees on you, and you're like obligated to them now because they have all your product, and they like lost a lot of the stuff. And when we had them, we like pulled out from working with them because we had another shipment come. This is how we did it. We had another shipment coming in from China. Haters don't hate. And so we had, instead of,
They make good shit.
they make Apple computers. They get a bad rap. I know in the 80s and the 70s and 80s it was bad, but they do better than anyone else can do it right now. FYI, I would put
Exactly.
my product I would compare it quality wise of like construction. I would put it to the test against any other country's manufacturing potential. But so we had a new shipment come in, and instead of shipping it to them, we had it shipped to our house. And then we told them, we were withdrawing from our relationship with them. And then they're like, oh, what can we do? We'll reduce the price. We'll do better. And I was like, it's too late now, dude. Just send me all my stuff.
Yeah.
And then all the stuff that they had lost, when we found it when they sent it to us, and we had to sort it all out. It was such a mess of, like, they threw all the underwear in the boxes. There was no organization. We had to sort everything out. But that was a blessing because we brought it back home. There's actually a YouTube video if you guys are interested. It's called $1 Million Shipment, and it's on our Sheath YouTube page. That was right in that time frame when we were pulling out of it was called Rakuten, that particular company. But that was a fun video. That was like this was right when COVID was starting, so it was also another like stars aligning type scenario where we pulled out right in time, because if COVID had gone in like full effect where everything was shut down, then they would have just had our stuff for another 6 months or something.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We have like there is a luck involved with business, but it all, you got to put yourself in the position to get lucky. And another thing, these motivational movies and like What the Bleep Do We Know, The Secret, and like Think and Grow Rich, these types of movies, it's like the universe is going to challenge you. And I know, anyways, I'll just say it. The universe is going to challenge you. It's going to test you. It's going to put obstacles in front of you, and you're going to either quit or push through it. And once you've like pushed through it, and not like, the universe is like, okay, this guy's not going to quit. So let's give him some, like, open the doors and like, I get emotional for some reason, but it's just like, it's unbelievable that we're even like where we're at, honestly, because I'm kind of a fuck up in a lot of ways.
I don't think you are.
Yeah.
I really don't. And I mean, I've watched a lot of the content that you've put out and everything, and I think like we have our wayward days, and you're.
I mean, I bet, and the reason I get emotional, I guess, is because I even though I just kept trying.
I get really emotional when people are nice to me, and I think it is a deep-seated belief that I don't deserve it.
Yeah. See.
Yeah.
And I resonate with what you're saying. Like I feel like maybe I don't deserve it, and and then the fact that I'm here, I'm really grateful. And that's another thing.
Mm.
It's just every day trying to, doing your best. I know we all have good and bad days, but try to have that attitude of gratitude, and that will take you a long way. Because if you're like an asshole and you're always like negative and pessimistic,
Mm.
thank you, Roadrunner. I, uh, if it's just not going to get you as far as if you have that positive mental attitude and um, whatever, that whole thing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for a positive mindset because, yeah, there's been a lot going around about like toxic positivity
I
and and
haven't heard
I,
that, but
I do think that there is some elements of like the positivity movement that can be a bit toxic, maybe, but
I could see that with some people when you see it's fake and it's like it's like
yeah,
it's like I know some people that they're like, you cannot be this positive. Your voice,
yeah,
like, hey, everything's great, and like just be real and
yeah,
try to be optimistic and try to be nice and spread that. But when it's like this fake cheery attitude, it's weird, and it's not if it's not genuine, it's just kind of gross.
mm.
So I could see that.
No, it's true.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, but you also got to fake it till you make it. But with some people, and I would not name names, it's just like, this is weird. You're not fooling anyone.
Yeah, yeah. Luckily, I think I'm pretty much insulated from a lot of that, like being in South Africa, because I'm sure there's a lot of influences and stuff like that in the US that I just obviously I don't look for it, so I don't see it.
Yeah, and if you see it, you're
Mm.
gonna recognize it as like this gross fakeness, and it's gonna turn you off, and you're not gonna want to watch it anyways.
Mm.
So,
I don't know if you. No, like this is such a sore topic because people are like, what the fuck? Um, there's a lot of criticism for the show, but I have young boys that really enjoy it. She-Hulk.
I
Have you
haven't
watched
seen.
it?
I know what I saw advertisements. It's on Hulu, and I
Okay.
haven't watched it. Is it good? They
Well, the
like it.
boys really enjoy it, yeah.
Yeah,
So, that's what we'll do in the evening after we've got them ready for bed. We'll put an episode on
yeah.
when there's one released and watch that with them and then take them to bed. So, but last night, there was this influencer that made a line of cosmetics or something and called them She-Hulk or something. And this influencer was just like the epitome of a fake, toxically positive person. Like
Mm.
just if we talk about like those type of influencers that you can just see straight through them, and you wonder how they're so successful and how people don't see through them. This person was the epitome of it. Like they really basically made a caricature of an influence. It was quite funny, and that
um.
just like popped into my head.
Well, now I want to give She-Hulk a chance. If at least watch an episode. That's kind of funny, and good luck to that influencer, I guess.
Well, obviously it's a fake character, so that's okay. But yeah,
Oh, I see.
they do exist.
Yeah.
They do
Um.
exist.
Hmm. Trying to think of like a good way to like wrap up
Yeah.
this.
let's,
And
let's, okay, I have a question. I know what
yes.
to think of what to ask you. I know that generally creators do not have a lot of time to consume a lot of content. However, is there anything that you do really enjoy watching if or listening to, like be it a podcast or a TV show that you're really enjoying at the moment?
Um.
Anything?
Okay. So I consume a lot of content, and let's see. So we're watching Game of Thrones right now. We are watching. My wife loves the Kardashians, and I do too. Sorry. There's something inspirational about them. people think they don't work hard, but they do, and they got a whirlwind that kind of pushed them in that direction. But to keep it growing and keep it going, that's fascinating to me. So Game of Thrones, there's this new show called Severance on Apple TV that's kind of weird but kind of decent. The Office, that show, The Office, it's on every night, and before we go to bed, just watching old reruns. I'll show you my podcast list. So I'm listening to, well, you can't really see it. So Shane, a lot of them we sponsor. What's Matt and Shane's secret podcast? So it's Shane Gillis. I'm about to watch this Joe Rogan episode, the latest one, because it has Dave Smith, who he's probably my favorite. Dave Smith has a show called Part of the Problem. It's like
yes, I like Dave Smith as well.
So that one, and when he's on Rogan, he kills it. We got Ari Shafir. There's a Barry Weiss lady. Dumpster Fire. Tuesdays with Stories. I'll take it back. Tuesdays with Stories is my favorite.
Tuesdays with Stories. Okay.
Yeah, they're so funny. They cut up and. Have you heard of it? Yeah, it's just it's crazy. They're so funny, and they're just I like to laugh. Like Louis C.K. Even though he was canceled, it's like I love comedy, so a lot of comedy stuff.
And generally, if a comic gets canceled, it's probably someone you should be listening to.
Yeah, exactly. No, agreed, 100%. They're saying something that somebody doesn't want you to hear. So, generally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been a load of fun, and it's been really interesting hearing your story. And thank you very, very much for your time. And if there are any South Africans watching my show that are inclined to fight with customs, please order from Sheath Underwear. They have like this mystery special going on at the moment, $10 for a pair of sheath. You won't quite know what you get. You can choose your size though, so don't worry about that. And the bras are $8, and I think the women's bikinis are also $8.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't lose on that deal, especially for the women's. And yeah, I really appreciate you letting me on.
No, it's been great.
Yeah, sometimes I do better than others, but it was a pleasure actually finally getting to meet you, and instead of just the comments on the live stream. So I really appreciate you inviting me on here.
I have to respond to this because Michael Malice always says that he's got a small one. So I'm just saying he loves them.
Yeah, and it's one size fits all. It'll just give it a shot, Roadrunner. Don't sell yourself short.
Oh, look at that! The power just came back on.
Oh my God, that is hilarious. Let there be light, said the Lord. Oh, there it goes.
No, my husband's turning the fan off, but he turned the lights off by mistake.
Oh, I see.
You can leave the fan on. I'm sweating. Thank you. Yeah. No, thank you. This has been really great. I'm glad that you got to see our load shedding thing in progress.
In progress. Let's do it again sometime. I feel like
I like that.
When I feel like I got like off track or whatever. We started and I was telling the story, and then it just. But okay, as long as it was good enough, then that's great. But I want to sometimes.
No, I like for the conversation to just flow.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Okay, good. Well,
no, it was great.
Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you everyone. I'm Bobby the Bank.
Thanks everyone.
Stuff.
Yes. The links are in the description, Twitter, and from there you can find Instagram and all the rest of it. So go give them a follow.
Please.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you soon. Okay. Bye, Beth.
Bye.